What's up guys, this is Caleb from Srkcycles and I'm going to talk to you guys about negotiating. This is tips from a salesman. So, what's up guys? This is one of my favorite topics. This is automobile purchasing and negotiating. Guys, I will say over the last couple of years, the last 5 years, it's gotten a lot harder to negotiate. The prices are so competitive because of the internet. Most automobile dealers aren't like they were in like the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s where they just advertised one price and they had such big markup that you could go in and knock thousands of dollars off and feel like a champ. And they were still making out. Let's keep that as a disclaimer. If they accept your offer, it might be a great deal for you. They're always making out. They don't really make deals that they're not making out on, and making out might not even be making money. Making out might just be getting it out of their inventory because for some reason people didn't want the car, bike, anything. It's a little bit off topic, but as far as motorcycle negotiations, there's a general rule of thumb I use when it comes to negotiating for bikes or for cars, and that's I want a clear description of what it is before I go buy it. If I go buy it from a dealer and I see on the pictures and the salesman tells me that there's a gigantic dent on the front fender, that there's a crack in the windshield, then I 100% know what I'm purchasing. If the price still seems good, like if the price still feels as though it's a good deal even with those cosmetic flaws that are disclosed to me, I understand that that's what I might pay when I get there. So when I first start my search, what I do is I make a list of everything that I want. I make a list of all of the features I could live with and live without, and then I'll go through and I'll check it out and I'll kind of see what the market prices are. I don't necessarily always look at the cheapest, but there are certain things, dealers obviously have a certain margin that they have to make, whereas if you're looking to do a private sale, you could technically beat that person up to $0. It's probably not gonna happen, but there is a lot more room for negotiation when you're buying something private sale. And so understand completely what you're purchasing. Understand when you go look at a bike for $3,000, that bike's priced at $3,000 accordingly. If you're buying a Harley touring bike for $4,500, you understand that most Harley touring bikes are gonna range you from $7,500 to $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000. So that $4,500 touring bike, if you get there and it's completely as described, you understand that it's still a good deal. I'm not saying you can't beat them up over a couple bucks. I think that negotiating is, obviously if you didn't ask, you're never gonna know. So if you show up and you offer 43 and they take the deal, you just got 200 bucks back in your pocket. So I'm not saying at all don't negotiate. I just think that negotiations are best when you show up and the vehicle is not at all as described. If you show up and the motorcycle that looked mint in the pictures, you show up and the tire's bald on the back and the turn signals don't work and the radio's blown, then you either walk away or you say to them, unless I can get it for this price, I'm not even interested. They kind of deceived you at that point. You don't owe them anything for showing up. You don't have to buy it. However, that's when negotiating is at its best. Figure out exactly what you're getting yourself into before you go look at it. Ask all the questions. Say, this is the price range I want to be around. If you guys are close and you go look at it and it's as described, then yeah, I think that's what you had originally intended to do. But if you show up and it's completely not as described, that's when you can really start taking chunks off. If you show up and it was a mint condition bike that was advertised for $4,500, the market's $4,500, it's not really that below market value. Originally you were gonna ask maybe for 42, 43, get a couple dollars off, but you show up and it's not as described at all and you said, I don't even really want this bike. I'm willing to pay market value if it's in great shape. However, I'll give you $2,500 as is and I'll make the repairs myself. That is a completely fair negotiation. The product was not as described. One flaw I see people run into when they're trying to negotiate is they know it's a killer deal. They know the bike's even better than described and they still try and beat you up. Most people that try and beat me up over the price, I tell them, our prices are pretty much firm. And most people that try and beat me up say, I know, I just had to ask. And I totally understand that. I ask for everything as well. You don't want to just leave money on the table for no reason. However, when you continue to nitpick at things that you knew going into it, if we do our walk around videos, if I tell you that tire's bald in the back, I'm not putting a new tire on it and that's why it's priced the way it is, and you show up and you ask why the tire's bald, you knew exactly what you were getting yourself into before you showed up. So don't get to the place you're going to negotiate at knowing full well that they know and they disclosed it to you, but now you're just gonna try and harp on it. That just kind of, not necessarily ticks everyone off, but that just kind of makes them feel crummy. They're like, they were trying to be honest with you and all you're trying to do is beat them up. The other thing too is don't negotiate on payment. This is something I can't harp on enough. Payment is not a negotiation topic. What they're gonna do is they're just gonna elongate your payment, or they're gonna lower, they're gonna mess with your interest rate, they're gonna mess with their term length, they're gonna mess with certain products they put in. Payment is not a negotiation point because they are always going to win that negotiation, especially if you're buying a bike from a dealer. Banks don't really negotiate on that stuff. Negotiate on the total price of the vehicle. That's what you always, always, always have to negotiate on. If you want to warranty your products, you can sometimes negotiate on those things. Not a lot of times, they're pretty set prices on those things, but always negotiate on the overall price of the vehicle. And that brings me to my final point. Don't talk about the price of the vehicle. Don't say that the vehicle's a killer deal at the price it's at, in the condition that it's at, and then expect to ask them for money off. You kind of showed your cards when you say, you come in, you look at it, you say, this is in better shape than I saw it on the pictures. The price is insane. Would you take less? Almost always any dealership you're going to go to, they're going to say those two things don't coincide. You can't give them all the praise there and then say, would you take less money? Also, don't agree to pay a certain thing and then when you go back to pay it in full and you leave a deposit, go back to pay it in full, ask for money off. 99.99999% of the time they're going to say absolutely not. You agreed at this certain price. And the third point is, under this same topic, is don't throw a number out there that you're not willing to jump on at that moment. It's a little bit frustrating, and not necessarily for me, but for a lot of dealers, I know it's frustrating when they walk you through things and they get you to a certain point, and you guys sit down and you say, would you take 10,000? And they say, well, it's 12,000, and then you say, okay, I'll meet you in the middle, 11 grand, and they say, okay, let's do it, and then you back out. If you're not willing to purchase it, just don't negotiate on those things. It's not a big deal, but it is a little bit frustrating when people give me an ultimatum or give someone an ultimatum. You accept that ultimatum and then they kind of back out. You are perfectly welcome to do so. You haven't paid yet, but it kind of hurts your credibility if you're gonna go back there and purchase something else. If you're gonna actually purchase a vehicle, most of the time they're just gonna try and find someone else to sell it to at full price just because they don't really wanna deal with you. The whole reason was that you were gonna do it then and there, and they were kind of making a split-second decision. So I know that's a lot of information, but that is Negotiating 101.